All right, hey all, just coming back to you again for a third video here regarding back to school. Before we do, I just wanted to check in about some current events that I've noticed and some things that are going on for me that hopefully you'd be willing to share your views on. Trisha Zucker for Congress. She'd be the third Native American woman to serve in Congress, the first in Wisconsin, and she is a member of the Ho-Chunk tribe. From the outside looking in, it seems like a really good thing. But I am curious how you all feel about her being a part of the Congress and as a Native woman, um, how she might support the things that your population needs right now. Also, an Indigenous Peoples History of the United States is a book that I just began reading. I got my copy right here. I already enlightened in the short amount that I've read, and wondering if anybody else has experience with that, and whether or not they have opinions. Also, the Indigenous Peoples March going on in Green Bay. It's really the only one that I have seen. I know that October 12th is a very big day, and I want to be a part of that day. So right now, my plan is to go to Green Bay, but if there are other events going on, I'd certainly love to hear about them myself, and I think so would others. So please share on anything going on, even if it's not related to this, that we could all benefit from. It would be appreciated. All right, so getting into the school stuff, the first thing that I wanted to kind of address is I know every district is doing things differently, and I know it looks different for everybody. So the two questions really become, is virtual going to work for your child? Is it something you want for your child? Or is there a need for in-person instruction for your child? And I think everybody's in a little different boat, and every school district's in a different boat, so it's hard to really know. But I did want to give you a little bit of information that at least Sun Prairie School District had put out. Now, I believe this is all changed as of yesterday. Dane County has now been ordered grades 3 through above to not meet in person. So unfortunately, I believe K2, we will be able to still bring in person students that really need it. And then those 3 through 12 will still have to be virtual. We were initially planning on bringing some of those students in. I think it's worth noting that the time was very minimal. It was, a couple hours to minimize exposure. So I did want to bring it up, though, in case you're in a situation where virtual school is the only option and you are feeling strongly as though your child may need some in-person instruction. It seemed as though there was opportunities. Again, in Dane County, those opportunities may have gone away for some, but just taking a look at that in your area and what that might mean for you, based on what your needs are. And so on the right hand side there in the corner, bottom corner, shows what Sun Prairie was considering in terms of prioritizing in-person instruction, and a lot of it was data from the spring in terms of engagement and how they've been performing. Okay, and then the last thing to kind of mention on this that's in here is just that medical exemption for a face mask. So if you were going to advocate for your child to be in person, I did send out a bunch of resources on maybe how you could help them become more comfortable and tolerant of a face mask. But if that's just not going to work for your situation, there may be a need to seek out a medical exemption for that as well. All right. So again, any questions on any of this stuff, feel free to ask me. I can walk you through things the best of my ability based on your situation. All right, so wanted to really dive into the IEP program summary. It's Roman numeral 4, and on your document. So if you had a chance to look at it or get a copy, that's what you're going to look for, is that Roman numeral 4 where it says program summary. And there's really 4 areas of this, and I want to highlight each area, and then I'll talk about each area specifically. 1, supplementary aids and services. So that section deals with what is needed for the student to access regular education. So the regular education, math, science, reading, writing, literacy stuff, what does the student need so they can participate in those classes? B, specially designed instruction or special education, which is really where your special education teachers come into play and staff. That's what is their role in providing instruction in replacement of or beyond the regular education. So ideally, A would cover a lot for them, that they'd be able to be with their peers, be in the classes, and have some kind of modifications to the curriculum. B, the special education part, is what do we need to really have an intensive work on with the student, maybe smaller groups, one-on-one settings. Related services are those things that students need to independently access the regular education environments and to be successful in them. Just quickly, I'll get in depth with it, but occupational therapy, physical therapy, those are things, speech, vision, those are things that fall under that category. And then lastly, program modifications, which is really just staff. What does staff need to be able to know and be able to do to provide that high quality instruction to the student? Okay, so the first area, supplementary aids and services, you'll see top right corner, that is what it should look like on the form. On the actual IEP is a general look at how that would look like to you. Basically, again, we're talking about things that would help that student access the regular education environment. So they'd be able to be with their peers in their regular education math class with things like, listed in the bullet point, academic support for modifications in off-task behavior, assignment and test modifications, different assistive technologies, things for speech or writing tasks, and then physical adaptations to the environment, um, walkers, different seating arrangement type things, different writing utensils, uh, locker placement. List goes on and on and on. So I know it's a brief overview right now. There's a lot more that can go into this section, but those are just kind of the general ideas. So here's an example that I have at the bottom. It was written as adult assistance in regular education setting, 30 minutes of a 44-minute class. That gets a little tricky, but I think it's important to have things like that out there for you, because they can write things pretty, I think, get creative, let's just say. So 30 minutes out of the 44 minutes is what the requirement here in the regular education classes. So the example has social studies, science, literacy, electives. The description, I think, really nails it down for us. What does the student need? They need support to develop mini schedules, support while working on assignments by breaking down steps, clarifying and explaining to them, support for hygiene and social skills, assistance with taking sensory breaks. So I took this right out of an IEP. This is fairly common for some students. As a supplementary aid and service. So this is adult assistance. It is not a special education teacher providing this. So that's important as we break down these categories. This is not the special ed teacher. What we're going to talk about now is the special education teacher. So this is where your special education teachers come into play. What are they going to provide that the student needs outside of that regular education instruction? Okay, so it might be modifications to the curriculum. So they might be doing sort of a replacement curriculum that relates to regular ed but isn't at that level. Instructional support within the class, replacement curriculum, with a booster class relevant to the curriculum. So some of this sounds a lot like the last thing we talked about, but what the difference is this is provided by a special education teacher, not a teaching assistant. Okay. And then the replacement curriculum booster class might mean that a student has 2 math classes, 2 literacy classes, one that's really focused on building skills that they can use in the regular education setting. So an example here is several examples: academic instruction in English, language arts, reading and writing, 1 time a day for 30 minutes. So for 30 minutes a day, that special education teacher is going to take, 1 time a day, 30 minutes, hammer down on reading and writing with that student so that they can be successful in the regular ed environment. Academic instruction in math, 1 time per day, 70 minutes. Same thing, just wanted to show you a little different amount of time. Adaptive physical education, 2 times per week for 35 minutes. So again, just a different way of writing it. We're talking 2 times a week now, not just daily. And social and adaptive skills, 10 times per month for 30 minutes. So that would be more of a reoccurring thing every so often. For 30 minutes, we're really going to work on our social skills, but not necessarily on a weekly or daily basis. So it can be written in a lot of different ways, but really this is the special education teacher's instruction to that student. C, related services. So these are, again, things that help them access the school environment and be successful. It can include, um, psychology and therapy type of things, occupational physical therapy, speech language vision, school health needs. That's a unique one to some students, and transportation. So some students with the school health needs may need to see the nurse regularly for certain things like that. Transportation is sometimes a very key one. So when you go into your IEPs, and I believe a lot of you are going to be having to rewrite them right now, if transportation for your child is an issue, that's a good time to have a discussion about it. The district may be able to provide that as well. Again, hopefully you've noticed I have some pictures, some screenshots in the bottom corner here of what that would look like on the form, and it has a lot of different areas in it for you to kind of peruse. D, program modifications and support for personnel. Sorry, trying to get my head out of the way. Yeah, again, this is more about the staff and what did they need. They might need to learn more about the student's disability, how it can affect the student in a school, teaching strategies, and then how they could receive training in curriculum as well. So this is more probably for our teaching assistants, as well as some of our regular education teachers, as to how they can best support our students with disabilities. And again, just another element to making sure our students are successful in regular education. Examples would be consultation with special education teacher and classroom teachers 1 time a week for 10 minutes. That's a very common one, that our special ed teachers are consulting with the classroom teachers and providing them with ideas and modifications and things that will help include their students. Sharing student summaries with all teachers and assistants, working with them 2 times per year. So anybody that comes in contact with them, we often forget about things like music and art, and those teachers um, should be getting information about these students that will help prepare them for how to best meet their needs. And then safety training for all staff working with students throughout the year. So sometimes it might be a medical thing. For example, I have a student that I work with that has a heart condition, and so she needs an adult in the vicinity at all times that are trained on how to use an AED. So that would be a good example of safety training. All right, we're almost there. I did extend my service here, so I can go beyond 5 minutes, unfortunately for you. But one of the big things that is coming up in regards to COVID-19 is equity in schools, and wanted to give you this was a packet. The blue portion here was in a packet that got sent out to families in Sun Prairie, just about things that you can do to assure equity in schools. And some of these might relate directly to your family, some of them may not. So then it becomes more of a community involvement thing, like what are you willing to give up for your community? And I know I'm preaching to a population that has given up a lot, so I understand that, and please take that in consideration as I do. I also think it's important that your district is recognizing this, and I hope that they are. And I wanted to put out what Sun Prairie did on the right side there, is they put out a statement of equity, essentially, and it included, students of colors and diverse backgrounds. It included students of disabilities. It included our LGBTQA community. And I know you guys fit at least into one of those categories with having a loved one who has a disability, and you may fit into many of those categories. And I just think it's really important that you push your schools to honor these things, because they're very real issues. And I'm proud that I work for a district that is doing the best they can to address it, but I fear that a lot of districts are not. So again, I'm just promoting you to be involved. I'm not saying you need to do anything crazy about it, but it certainly is something to look into. And again, any of these things that we've talked about today, or anything beyond it really, that's popping up in your head, please let me know. Um, Shoot me a text, email, call, any way that you can get a hold of me. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation and walk through some stuff with you. I hope that you're finding yourself with patience and tolerance these days, as I think we all need it. And again, take care.